it's highly addictive. You know,
How do you mean by that?
most of these people have not left. And for what I can tell, have no plan to leave. Once you get a little bit of taste of what it's like to be out here, it's hard to leave. You know, I mean, we're literally sticking out into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, right? So we're surrounded by water, and we have what are consistently ranked as the top 10 beaches in the world. They're big, wide, sandy beaches. And, you know, you can't find that anywhere. You know, I've been up and down the eastern seaboard. None of them look like this one. From a more pragmatic side of things, we're out here in our own little community, but we're still only 90 miles from the epicenter of the world. So you can simultaneously be in one of the most beautiful parts of the world and still have immediate direct access to the most important part of the world.
Welcome to Green Means Go. On today's episode, we have Adam Hofer from the Hamptons. He is a realtor who sells in the multi-million-dollar range. He works with some of the best clientele really in the nation, and he has a lot of knowledge for somebody who is looking to perform at the highest level and who is really hungry about taking their career seriously. So welcome to the show, Adam.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
So you are in more than one market. You're in the Hamptons and you're in Palm Beach. What inspired you to get into both markets?
Well, the Hamptons was easy for me because I was born and raised out here, right? So this is, for lack of a better term, this is all I knew. But it also is easy because it's what I really love. So I love being here. I love living here. I love everything about this area and what it has to offer. So this was the clearest and best, most natural option for myself to get started. And then the Palm Beach thing is that's new, right? So now that's officially my second love. And we're just starting to dabble down there. It's a little bit more of a passion project than a full-time career. But, I visited the area the first time ever in October of 2021 for our Douglas Elliman event. And I went down a few days early. I spent a week down there and absolutely fell in love with it. So shortly thereafter, we bought a house. Last winter, we spent a ton of time there. And one of the things I found really interesting when I was there is even like in the few short months or weeks that I started spending time there, I could literally be sitting at Surfside Diner and run into 5 or 6 people that I knew. Most of which were from up here. So I started to think to myself, instead of sort of, running around trying to find things to do January through March, maybe my time would be better spent, with my clients down there in the off season, talking about what we're going to do up here come summertime, right? And since then, since I've sort of fallen in love with the area as much as I love being here, now we're on starting a little bit of a quest to do some business there too, right? Because we want our clients to know that we can serve them in all the different areas that they spend time in, and we can serve them efficiently and effectively. So that's kind of like this year's goal is to get that up and running.
There are great markets, Palm Beach and the Hamptons, but for you, it's normal, right? You sell here, you do $1 million homes all the time, multi-million-dollar homes. But for the average person, the Hamptons is really an icon. It's a place of luxury. It's a place that so few people get to see. What is the Hamptons truly?
Well, I think it's just that, it's a very, very special part of the world. My wife and kids and I love to travel, but one of the things that's consistent is we're always very happy to come home. And I think every time you leave this area, you realize when you come back what makes it so special. We're literally sticking out into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Right? So we're surrounded by water. It is a big place, and it's not a big place. It's nicely spread out. Everybody has beautiful pieces of land. We still have active farm fields, and we have what are consistently ranked as the top 10 beaches in the world, for obvious reasons once you get to see them. They're big, wide, sandy beaches. And, you can't find that anywhere. I've been up and down the eastern seaboard and have been to, pretty much an ocean beach in every state
Yeah.
along it. None of them look like this one, right? We get super rocky when we go up north.
Yeah.
We get pretty seaweedy when we go down south. So these are just like the best beaches. As much as we love to go to Florida in the winter, we love the seasons. It's a pretty nice part of living here, is you get to experience all 4 seasons. And it's just a very special way of life, you know. From a more pragmatic side of things, we're out here in our own little community on the ocean, you know, which is on the smaller side, but we're still only 90 miles from the epicenter of the world.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that really, you know, continues to drive people to the Hamptons. You can simultaneously be in one of the most beautiful parts of the world, and still have immediate direct access to the most important part of the world.
New York City.
Right? So it's an amazing combination.
You have a love for New York. That's pretty cool.
The Hamptons.
Well, just New York State in general.
There's a lot of things I love about New York State.
But this is the Hamptons is
I mean, the Hamptons is one of them. But like I was telling you the other day, we love to go upstate too.
Yeah.
Right? Take a little break from the ocean and head up to the mountains. Again, that's another exciting part about living here, is within 3 hours, you could be to so many different types of areas, you know, that offer all different things.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing. You have the beaches, you have the mountains, you have the cities, you know, right nearby, with this place being home. For people who, you know, you say that there's a lot of people that come to the Hamptons. What are drawing people to the Hamptons? Why do wealthy people come to live here?
Well, I think it's all the things that I just mentioned, right? I mean, for starters, the Hamptons itself is almost like a brand, right? So it's kind of hard to define today exactly why people still come here, outside of giving the answer that, well, it's just because people have been coming here for so long, right? So we have to remember that, you know, New York State is one of the oldest areas in the country, right?
Yeah.
Inside some of our villages here, we have buildings from the 1600s. So, you know, almost as long as this country has been established, wealthy people have been coming out to this area. You know, primarily in the beginning was for its beauty, right? The ability to come out here, be on the beach, have a big piece of property, escape the city.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing like it. So that started a very long time ago. And then I think for a lot of people, it just became one of those things that you do, right? As far as what keeps people coming here, well, it's all those same reasons. The same reason they came here 300 or 400 years ago was the beach, and all the natural beauty. But now, you know, we have so many things, especially post-COVID, that certain clientele is looking for, whether it be a certain restaurant or workout class. It's all here.
Yeah.
You know, so the services are available. And, you know, there's some really special areas out here, whether it be Southampton or East Hampton Village, you know, the estate sections that, you know, we still have these amazing 2 and 3 acre estates with enormous, beautiful homes on them, on or close to the ocean. And you don't find that anywhere else. You really don't. There's a lot of places similar, but nothing's quite the same.
Yeah, even, you know, we shoot a lot in Palm Beach, and rarely do you find properties that have over an acre on the island. So to come out here and to see how big the properties can get, they have tennis courts, they have basements, they have a whole lot more than you're finding in Palm Beach. Is that part of what you love about the Hamptons?
Sure. I mean, I love the real estate out here, obviously. I love the amazing estates, you know, but again, it all goes back to just there's a sense of community in a lot of these places too. You know, as much as it is a vacation destination for a lot of people, to me, it never feels that way. Like, obviously it gets busy in the summer, but even all the people that visitors, if you will, it doesn't feel like a tourist town. You know, it maintains this sense of community because it is a special place to so many people. Palm Beach, there's a lot to love, but it's just a different, it's just a different feel. The large properties and homes there are very special. These ones are bigger, but what people look for here versus there, I feel like can be very different as well.
Yeah. And with the Hamptons, you comes huge sales, very, opulent homes. Is there anything that you can recall in the past few years that just really kind of blows you away in terms of sales in the Hamptons?
I mean, during COVID, there was a lot of sales that shocked me, not necessarily on the super high end either. A lot of houses that went for way more than they ever would or maybe should have. That was a really interesting time here when it comes to home values, like, what people were willing to pay just to get into the area, which is sort of interesting too, because I think, during that time, there were a lot of shocking sales. And let's just for a moment talk about, maybe at the $2 or $3 million price point, right? Which is the lower end at this point.
Yeah.
$1 million is the point of entry. $2 million is entry level. But the houses that were selling for those numbers most likely were probably selling for about half that, just 2 short years before, right? And so you see watch all these people willing to really step up and pay a lot of money to be in this area. Definitely built up this certain level of pride for myself to be here. Like, wow, these people really want to get here, right? And I think as time passes, the more interesting part of that is that none of them have left. So there was a big assumption that as soon as COVID was over, there would be some sort of mass exodus and all these homes would hit the market and, values would go down, but it really hasn't happened. We do see people not willing to overpay or pay more than they might have to or should
during COVID.
Yeah, as much as they did during COVID.
Yeah.
And there's a few different reasons for that, but I think it is really interesting to see that most of these people have not left, and from what I can tell, have no plan to leave.
Yeah.
They want to keep those houses and continue to be here because it is like what I say to most people, especially like when I first start working with buyers. Yeah. It's highly addictive.
How do you mean by that?
Once you get a little bit of taste of what it's like to be out here, it's hard to leave.
Yeah.
And it's the same in Palm Beach, and we see that down there too, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of people moved to Florida or went down there for a few months in COVID and never left.
Yeah.
So it's like we've seen not only have those people not left this area, but it's not seasonal anymore. People are using it year round. They maybe not here full time, but it's not Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's almost every month except maybe January, February, depending on the weather. Yeah. Right. We've had some pretty significant sales over the last few years.
Any numbers?
Any numbers?
Yeah. Any numbers you can throw out there?
105, 115. I was telling you about the houses the other day that were listed for 60 and 70. Yeah. Not on the water. Yeah. And as I was rattling off those different, monumental sales to you, I realized that all of these big numbers were for homes that were not on the water, which I thought was pretty interesting too. Yeah. In Palm Beach, it's very different, right? It's like you get this record-breaking sale. Typically, they're oceanfront. Yeah. Big piece of property on the ocean. And here, we've seen some very majority of the significant sales have all been, maybe waterfront, but not oceanfront.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But a lot of them are inland, and they're just big, beautiful estates.
What's different as we were driving around from Palm Beach and the Hamptons is if you're in Palm Beach and you're inland, you're kind of next to neighbors, and it's not much of an experience besides the community of Palm Beach. But here, you have farms, you have huge estates, you have beautiful yards, you have just private oases that you really don't get in Palm Beach. So talk more about the draw to these very private and very, lush, huge, pieces of property. What are they like? For people who are perhaps in Florida or other parts of the country, what are these really private, beautiful places in the Hamptons like?
I think, and again, this became, in focus heavily during COVID, is, going after these larger pieces of property.
Yeah.
Because I guess in Florida, it's a little bit different because it's so easy to be outside all the time. And also you're in an area where so if you're in Palm Beach, like everything is pretty close,
Yeah.
right? And as you've experienced over the last few days,
Yeah.
the Hamptons are pretty spread out, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons why, having a big piece of property becomes a focal point, because you want to be able to have everything on site,
Yeah.
and include things like, it's always been popular to try and get a tennis court, obviously a big pool, guest house, pool house, large garage, and then, on average, an 8 to 12,000 square foot home. And I think that, the big pieces of property, right? Like an estate has always been sort of a sign of wealth, right?
Yeah.
And privacy is a big thing here and always has been. And I think pre-COVID, right, where the Hamptons were sort of the main destination for a lot of people. Now we see that that's been split up a little bit, but when it was the main destination, I think the thing in everybody's mind was you would leave the city on Friday afternoon. You'd end up out here, after a torturously long traffic-ridden ride. But when you got here, you would end up on this piece of property that you could just feel like totally relaxed and free and, private, and just sort of like let yourself go for the weekend, right?
That's beautiful. It's what I'm hearing you say is the Hamptons is you mentioned it's next to the epicenter of the world. So people are coming from New York City. They have places there. They have places here, and that's really just quite the experience. And speaking of New York, you're connected with Michael Lorber, and he works out of New York City aplenty. What is it like working with such a great team?
It's exactly what you would think it would like. It's amazing, and the team dynamic continues to get stronger and stronger, right? So we sort of pieced it together in the beginning, right? We were just working together on sort of a referral basis here and there. And, as we continued to work together, there was a natural connection, which, when you find it is sort of like a eureka moment.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to find people that
You get along with.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or that you feel comfortable, turning over these very important clients to, right?
Yeah.
Typically you want somebody that you feel would do and say and act the
Just how
same
you
way
would.
that you do,
Yeah.
So as we started to, after dating for a little while, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
we decided why not make it more official? And, part of assembling the team is all about branding, right? And marketing, and just letting people know that we're sort of like, we're one-stop shopping, if you will,
Yeah.
And a lot of people attempt it, but quite frankly aren't that good at it because they want to say that they service multiple areas. Whether or not they're really doing it or doing it well is a totally different story.
Right.
So any area that we decide to promote ourselves as being able to help in, we live there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we work there and we live there, so we understand what it's like to live in these areas. But also we understand the market, and we study it. We're in it. You have to, at this level, to effectively help a client or a customer, you need to be dialed into the community.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody can go on Zillow, right? Quite frankly, I don't care if my clients send me the listings. Doesn't make me feel bad.
Yeah.
It's my day-to-day expertise of, where that house is located exactly,
Yeah.
what the story is behind it, who's the other broker. It's like all these little nuanced things that we put together to really give them some actual information. And then, for new buyers, especially out here, like we don't spend a whole lot of time talking about houses. We spend more time talking about the area,
The lifestyle.
and how the house is going to be used.
Yeah.
I'm off topic a little bit, but just so going back to that, I mean, yeah, the team has been amazing, and we continue to grow and become more and more effective in servicing what we call the luxury triangle, right? So Hamptons, New York City, and South Florida.
Yeah. It's amazing. For you guys have created, an amazing normal, right? For you guys are experiencing some of the best houses in America. You see some of the best houses in America. For people who don't know what it's like, what is it like to operate in that echelon of business?
I mean, I consider myself very lucky. It's it makes work so much easier. It's not work. Right?
Yeah.
Like we love what we do because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to be in these houses.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be on these properties. And, a lot of people on the outside looking in have a certain perception of what it's like to work with, high net worth individuals. In my experience, it's also fun,
Yeah.
and they're super nice
Yeah.
and they're easy to work with.
They are. Yeah.
Not to say that we don't, there are definitely some really, really hard days.
Yeah.
And people get emotional. Doesn't matter how much you have in your bank account. Like you're going to get mad about the same things. You're going to get upset about the same things.
Yeah.
You're going to get frustrated. You can be mean and nasty at any level. But for the most part, our people are they're educated, they're experienced, they understand, these situations. They understand how to negotiate. They understand the value in brokerage, which is important.
Yeah.
And, it just becomes a collaboration and we have fun doing it.
Yeah.
We work together, we build relationships, and we have a lot of fun.
Working with some of the highest, performers in the world, we work with people like yourself we learn a lot from,
Right.
But you're working with billionaires. You're working with really high net worth people who have a lot of success. Is there anything you've learned from your clients, from their success that you've just through observation?
Yeah. So I think I sort of figured this out a while back and have, been fine tuning it and implementing it more. But at the end of the day, we want to make it less transactional. And we want to have a real relationship.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be treated with respect, right? And we want to talk to each other. Like a lot of times in my mind, no matter who that person is, I'm going to talk to them like we went to high school together. Okay. Just you and me talking about the things that we like or don't like,
Yeah.
what we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right. So we're just, we are building a real relationship. Again, it's something that a lot of people say, but they're not really doing. When I start with somebody, I don't care if they buy something today or a year from now or 5 years from now. Okay. The last thing on my mind is like, when is this going to close? It's more about like, how are we going to get there? Right. How are we going to make sure that they're happy with me and the results? So that's that. The other thing is, which is sort of like sales 101. And it's amazing how hard it is for most people to figure out how to do this, but just keep it simple. That's it.
How can you keep it simple?
A lot of people, and this is not only in real estate, I guess this is sort of like in sales in general, in a lot of different scenarios, situations, people have a tendency to overcomplicate things, okay? Or talk too much, or just sort of like everybody wants to insert their opinion on things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who, aren't taking the time to really, dive into like what makes an effective salesperson. They skip that part, or they think that their opinion in some way is adding value,
Yeah.
and a lot of times it's not, unless somebody asks you for it. But everybody is so quick to give it when it's not asked for, So again, it's like, how do we just keep it sort of streamlined, simple, not cluttered with useless information, right? So it is a little bit of a fine line, because we do want to build value for our clients. But I think, the first way to build value is to, again, keep it simple, right? Yeah. So how do you keep it simple? I guess is just making it easy. Okay. So I want to see this house tomorrow. Okay. I'm going to always say yes first and try to figure it out. Yeah. Whether or not it's really complicated for me, the client doesn't need to know that. We just want to try to present any situation like it was easy for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And so everything along the way, we just want to make it as seamless and easy as possible. Nobody needs to know about all the drama behind the scenes.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right?
Yeah. A lot of times when, you get asked a question, maybe it's complicated for you. It's like, yes, I'll work on it. I just got to figure out, the babysitter situation, and
right.
Nobody cares about that. They want to just give me a yes or no.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
so
really...
we're just trying to make it easy and not, again, clutter the situation with a bunch of things that other people don't need to know about.
Especially,
it just needs to be simple. High net worth individuals, CEOs, people that are running enormous companies, entrepreneurs, whoever they are, like, they want simple, direct answers, simple, direct process.
Such a good answer.
Right?
Yeah, so true.
That's it. They make decisions quickly because time is valuable.
Yeah.
Time is money.
Yeah.
Right? And again, it doesn't need to be complicated. When it becomes complicated, it's not fun. Right?
So good. That's so good.
I had this conversation with someone the other day, and it was about, bringing things up and, talking about things for
no
that weren't brought to the table. And in their mind, they confuse it with being dishonest. I was like, well, it's not dishonest, because you're sort of like, you were just giving your opinion on things. If someone asked me, is that a busy road, or, something like that, I'm going to give them an honest answer.
Yeah.
Whether or not do I think that the layout in the kitchen should be changed? What difference does it make? The person that's looking at to buy the house potentially is going to make that decision, not me.
Yeah.
So that's, bringing up things that are not important at the time, right?
It's so valuable, because when you're working with people like that, they like answers to be smooth. They like to be easy.
Yeah.
They appreciate insight, but if you're putting too much into it, it's like it's not needed. I think that's probably one of the most valuable things somebody can learn when dealing with high net worth people.
Yeah. And it's like, how do we make it simple? How do we make the paperwork process simple? How do we make the inspection process? Like, there's just so many things. And also, your real value is going to come in when you can, speak intelligently about the market, really show them what's so great about the area, guide them to a specific area that you think might work best for that. Like, that's when your opinion is important.
Yeah.
If I spend time with you and I find out that, you're a boater, you like to walk into town.
Yeah.
Like, I'm driving you right to Sag Harbor,
Yeah.
If
enough.
you don't want to be around anybody,
Yeah.
And you prefer it to be a little, if you like to be in the woods,
Yeah.
you want to be as far away from everyone else.
Yeah.
I'm taking you to the Northwest Woods in East Hampton. If you want to live out a scene from As Good as It Gets, then we're going to Sagaponack.
Yeah.
So that's where your opinion and your value is. That's where it really comes out.
with insight, but rather than
Yeah,
sharing the insight, but rather than just giving every opinion in your mind.
exactly.
That's so good.
Exactly.
And when you see when you're working with those people, they don't really, every once in a while you get a talker, but most of the time their answers are yes, no, when. Like
Right.
they're one word kind of people.
Right. Because they're trying to figure out too, like,
Yeah.
where do I want to be? You
Yeah.
know, like, so they don't, you can see the gears turning. And again, it's like, I love to use that word, but just keeping it, not transactional. Right. Like, I had one of the best feelings for me personally is, when I was in a place where I had this nice lady that I was working with for a while. We looked at a lot of houses. Okay. And one day, they came out, we looked at a bunch of houses, and she's apologizing profusely. I'm so sorry. I know we're taking up so much of your time. I just, we thought we were going to move on one. We weren't moving on it. And she's apologizing to me. And I looked right at her. I said, I could care less if you buy this house today. I don't care if you buy it today or next month or next year. It doesn't matter to me. As long as you buy something. No, but it doesn't matter. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. And it took 2 years and probably 50 visits to get them something. But at the end of the day, we got them a great house that they absolutely loved. They couldn't be happier. And guess what happens next?
Referrals.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. And that's how it becomes just more fun and easier year after year,
You mentioned when we were driving around, like what it looked like in the beginning. Do you want to recall like what it takes for somebody getting into it to get to that level of, because, of course you grew up here and it's good to know people, but you don't just start off selling multi-million-dollar homes. So, what does it take for somebody starting off to get to that level?
So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. There are obviously lots of podcasts and
Books,
Coaching. And all sorts of things that you can, read.
educate.
They're good. Most of them are designed for sort of your normal markets, right? That are full-time year-round communities, primary residences,
First-time home buyers.
First-time home buyers, average incomes, like things like that. Most of those are designed for that.
So what does it take for that next level? Somebody who's starting off that wants to work, in that echelon that you're working in.
Yeah. So this is interesting because this is a secondary home market, right? So for most people, this is a second, third, or fourth home.
Wow.
And most of them don't spend, maybe 3 or 4 months out of the year here, right?
Yeah.
And of course, one thing we always say is nobody needs a home in the Hamptons. They want one, right?
Yeah.
So in other areas, people are always moving, buying and selling for very specific reasons. I got transferred from my job, or we just had another kid. We need a bigger house, or we need to move by September for the school year. Like all those things don't come up here, So the reason for the purchase is very different, right? And then so the way that you can go after, listings or buyers is very different too, because they're not moving the same way as people do in most. Anyway, so you have all those tools available to you. And to some extent they're helpful, right? When it comes to cold calling or, calling expired listings and things like that. Some of those basic principles are very useful. But, as far as getting started, okay, so it's day one in real estate. Yes, it was super helpful. The fact that I lived here already, right? So I didn't have to learn the streets or, where the best restaurant was or anything. I knew all that already. Yeah. And knew a lot of people in the community, which was helpful. But I had to take again, this is like real estate 101, took all my contacts from previous career and let those people know what I was doing, right? So I'm going to reach out to the people that already know and probably, hopefully like and trust me and let them know this is what I'm doing, right? So I did that. I took all these contacts, I reached out to them, said, hey, I sell real estate now. The next thing I did was started using social media, which I had zero interest in at the time. You know, all my friends were on it, but it was not for me. And I was like, you know what? I better figure out how this works because it seems to be like this is what everybody's doing,
That's
right?
the thing, yeah.
So I started fooling around on social media. I was working for another broker at the time, which is also a great thing to do, right? Because how else are you going to get, you know, listings or make it look like you have a listing or get in front of other people day one?
You need
right?
access.
Yeah. So a lot of times, you know, you go into your whatever office you're working in, reach out to some of the top agents or somebody who has a lot of listings and say, hey, you know, if you need any help, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah.
Really simple stuff that most people don't do.
Yeah.
But really simple stuff.
Yeah.
So I was working with somebody who was going to do a rental open house, okay, which is kind of unheard of. We don't really do those too much, but I would take whatever I could get. So I'm going to do this rental open house. I post it. Open house, come see me, whatever. Rental open house gets canceled.
Yeah.
But somebody that I knew from a previous career path was following me. I had no idea. He reached out. He said, hey, can we see that house? I said, oh, you know, it got canceled. They're not renting it now. He's like, all right, well, we've been renting out here every year for the last 5 years. We'd love for you to help us out. I'm like, great, let's do it. I have my first customer, right?
Lead.
We go out, we get a rental house.
Yeah.
Checking him into the rental house. He says, you know, we've been renting for so many years. It's kind of silly. I think we should buy something. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. Now I have my first buyer, right?
Yeah.
And within a month, we were in contract. So I was very fortunate to get my first deal within like 45 days, you know, which is not normal.
Yeah.
But I went through this path of very simple tasks to try to get myself out there, and it worked.
Yeah. Again, keeping it simple.
That's it.
Doing the basics.
That's it. And doing stuff that I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Wasn't super glamorous.
Yeah.
But it worked. You know, fast forward, we're on our third transaction together. You know, the budget went from 1.6 to 12 million.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
And you know, that's kind of like, that is the whole picture. That is the goal right there. Right. It's like, how do you get yourself out there? How do you, attract your sphere, whatever you want to call it. But like, how do you get that first one? And then how do you move that into the next one and the next one and the next one? Right. So it's like, I tell new agents, you want to try to get at least one listing, or service somebody else's listing. So it looks like you're out there doing something.
Yeah.
So you can at least then attract something else, right? Then you have your own listing. Like the first listing I had, I was there probably 4 days a week doing open houses.
Yeah.
Again, nobody does that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's stuff that nobody wants to do.
Right. But I did it for, I did it for content. I did it to keep busy. I did it to meet other brokers, right? Because the relationship thing is super important.
Super.
I spent a lot of time in the office, which out here a lot of people don't do, but it was a great place to learn and meet people. I would go to every open house there was.
Yeah.
It's not fun, but it's just part of the, there's multiple benefits to doing it. You're building relationships, you're learning the inventory, right? And other people are watching you, especially if you're putting it on social.
Yeah.
Right? You might have nothing going on, and somebody from the outside looking in is thinking to themselves, this guy's super busy.
Yeah.
I want to work with him.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And ultimately that's the end goal, right?
Yeah.
Is for somebody to look at you and say, I want to work with that person.
Yeah.
Okay? And once that happens,
then you're rolling.
Now you're set for the next 20 years.
Yes. You mentioned content, and it's awesome because you do sell multi-million-dollar homes. You do work with billionaires. But the thing is, most people, they always say this. It's usually an excuse, right? For people who don't want to do social in the luxury space. Our clients aren't on social. there's no, I don't need to do it. Look at this guy who's never shown his face and sells $1 billion a year. So for you, why are you bullish on social?
I mean, you have to be. You have to be there, and we all know who those people are.
Yeah.
That have built these mega businesses, and you can't find them online. Okay, we have our friend in Palm Beach. There is undisputably, the biggest broker. I don't know, maybe in the country. Who knows? And I couldn't tell you what he looks like. Right? Doesn't have an Instagram account.
Yeah.
Works for him, but here's the caveat: he started 30 plus years ago, right? So he's built his business and he's done an amazing job doing it.
Yeah.
If that same person started today and did it his way, would it work? That's the big question, right? So for me, and again, this is like for any new agent, like how else are you going to get your name and your face out there? How else are you going to show people what you're doing? You're going to spend $5,000 a week in print advertising, right?
No.
Doesn't get in front of everybody either, and it's diluted with all the other ads. It's still important. Like we still do a lot of print, but but the print ad now is used to drive them to the social.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because yes, a lot of people say, "Oh, my customer is not on social." My customer, they are.
They are.
You don't know it because they have some elusive, name or but they're on there.
They are.
And the biggest part is, again, I've been in some sales role my entire life, and sales 101 is that people want to work with people that they know, like, and trust, right? And also, as a lifestyle broker, share similar interests. So whether or not you think somebody's on social and checking you out on there, I can tell you with 100% confidence they are. And so for me, that's been my opportunity to put my best foot forward, promote my business, not so much as I do, myself. I like to promote myself. I have no problem showing people what I'm doing because when somebody looks at that, I want them to say, I want to work with that guy.
Absolutely.
Right? Because why wouldn't you want to work with somebody who, in this case, understands the area, right? Uses it to its maximum potential.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or work with I'm not going to work with someone who has the direct opposite interests as me. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
because again, we want to have fun doing this, and we want to keep it simple. We want the process to be effective. And, if two people are aligned, then, you have a clear pathway to success.
Yeah. That's so good. And you're really good at it. Not every agent.
Get out of here.
Not every agent is, good at taking photographs, but your story posts, they're great. And it's a really true, reflection of what you just said. You show the lifestyle, you show the beautiful homes, but you also show the cool cars that you like to, you find, or the photo of a like a surf shop or a clam,
Right.
clam bar. You get a lot of cool lifestyle that you put out there. And have you seen it work? Have you connected? Have you gotten clients?
100%. I have developed some of the most amazing relationships through it, right? Because it's almost like you're going out to get coffee with somebody without going to get coffee with them.
Yeah.
Right? Like people are checking that out, they're sizing you up, and they're making a decision whether or not, like, hey, I'd like to work with that guy. And I get referrals and build relationships with a lot of people outside of real estate.
Yeah.
That ultimately refer real estate business. And I know that people that are thinking about working with me are on there just to verify. Yeah, we're good with this guy. He's cool. He's fun. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And, back to being good at it, whether or not I'm good at it, like, again, it's one of those things. It's not that hard and it's simple and you just have to be willing to do it. I have my phone out all the time. I'm ready, willing, and able to take a picture of something that is either going to like capture the area or a moment or is just cool looking, whatever it may be. And just like anything else in life, like why somebody might not be good or effective on social could be because they're lazy.
Yeah.
They don't feel like taking 30 seconds to pull over and take a picture of something that looks great, right?
Yeah. And what's really amazing about this is because you work in the luxury space, by effectively doing social on top of, networking and, being just all around an in-person, powerhouse, right? By adding social, like you can look at really making at least an extra $1 million a year from commissions, from having people see who you are, work with you, trust you, remember you. It can really change like the overall course of what business could look like for you.
It does. Yeah, it's very helpful.
It's amazing. And it's amazing how so few people see it, but it's kind of like one of those things you either believe or you don't. Right. Social is like, if you think about realtors who are on social, it's like they believe or they don't, because a lot of people will just leave it to, a social media manager who's going to post boring.
You can see right through that.
You can see right through it.
It's got to be personal.
And you can see that agent is not on it, right?
Right.
If you're going to message that agent, you can tell right away that if I send a message, Adam's going to see it or Adam's not going to see it.
Right.
So it's good that you're doing it, and
it works, and it's easy. And just like anything else, like I said, it's about, putting one foot in front of the other. Just, and it's free, right?
It's free.
It's free. It's free advertising.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And the eyeballs that you can get is just like, it's
there's
really,
no limit.
There's no limit. It's really how creative you get and how much, you're willing to put into it. But then again, when you can get leads on autopilot, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And, with that being said, you're working social, you're doing the basics. Is there anything else that you would say that has made you successful that maybe not everyone else is doing in real estate?
I mean, there's plenty.
But what about one more thing? Is there one more?
No more free information.
No more free information. Fair enough. Fair enough. And if you had pretty much one last opportunity to say something online, what would you tell people?
I think about that from time to time because I'm really happy where I am right now, and enjoying the success and super excited about, what's ahead. Obviously not getting any younger. So I think, is there something I would have done differently or something I would have told myself, a younger self?
Sure.
And it's kind of in my nature, I guess you could say, that I wouldn't do it any other way. A lot of what I know today, how I act today, and, where I'm at has to do with, all the ups and downs in the past, right? And all the different experiences that I've had, and I think there's a certain part of what I did previously that, translates to real estate and makes me better than other people, right? So if I hadn't had that previous experience, then I wouldn't have, some of the advantages I have currently.
And what was that previous experience?
I sold cars for 16 years. Very different environment, obviously. At the end of the day, it's sales, similar process, different product. But as we all know, it's like, automotive sales is high pressure, right? A lot of times people don't like going to car dealerships for various reasons. We all know what they are. But I did learn, how to streamline a process, right? And how to keep things moving. And I think there's this sort of level of casualness in real estate sometimes that's not effective for buyers and sellers, right? People just don't always take it so, not serious, but there's a certain momentum that is lost, right? So for me, it's like not to be high pressure, but like, let's keep it moving. And that's part of keeping it simple.
Yeah.
It's just like, let's just go through the process and get to that end result, right? So there was that, but there was also, this mentality, and I've been using this analogy a lot with sellers recently.
Yeah.
Is that, the reason why when you go to buy a car, they don't let you out of the dealership is because they know if you leave without buying something, you're buying something somewhere else. Okay? It's kind of the same thing in real estate, but we don't think about it that way because the product is different, right? It's not a depreciating, it's appreciating asset. But if there's a ready, willing, and able buyer looking at your house and they are going to make you an offer that's somewhat reasonable, you need to take it seriously.
Yeah.
You need to really think about how you can make it work. And because that person, if they're out looking and they're asking questions and they're hopefully even making offers, they're going to buy something
From somebody.
right. And if you make it difficult for them to buy your house, they will ultimately buy one that is easier to buy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And while at that moment, you might be telling yourself, well, that's not the buyer. We'll find somebody else. They'll come back to us. Like all these excuses that we love to, give ourselves. I would say that 99% of that time, the people do not return and they buy something else. So again, having sort of that, like those previous mentalities and, how they can sort of translate into real estate, I think is helpful.
Yeah.
Help
Very
move,
helpful.
move things along.
Yeah.
And make a deal, right? We used to say like people don't drive onto the lot of the dealership because they feel like it. They're curious, right? People don't look at houses because they have nothing better to do, right? There is a goal there. And if you're a serious seller, like, take those lookers seriously,
That's so good.
and let's make a deal.
Yeah. Especially for your clients especially with your clients you're selling, you can really bring a lot to the table in the sense of having that car sales experience because you're going to work efficiently with those buyers and vice versa.
Right.
That's amazing. And one more thing is what makes the Hamptons home?
I don't know.
It's home.
It's home.
Fair enough.
This is home. The beach, I don't know, it's just being, again, we utilize a lot of what the area has to offer. We take full advantage of it, throughout the various seasons. I mean, for me, what makes it feel like home besides being familiar with it and growing up here is, there's still a lot of small town elements. I can walk into, almost anywhere and know somebody, right? So that always makes a place feel like home, and we have our spots and, the things we like to do, all those things.
Amazing. Well, Adam, thank you for joining us today.